The first plasma bolt hit the medical station at 0800 hours, Terran Standard Time. Commander Sarah Chen watched through the viewport as the building, where she'd spent 3 years treating wounded soldiers from 7 different species, erupted in blue flames. Inside that facility, human medics were still working alongside their alien colleagues, just as they had every day since the Terran Galactic Alliance was formed, or so they thought. Sarah, get down. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez tackled her too. The floor as another blast shook their transport ship. Outside, the planet Kepler-442b was burning. Not from enemy fire from their own allies. The comm system crackled to life. This is High Command of the Galactic Alliance. All human forces are to surrender immediately. You have been deemed a threat to galactic peace. Sarah's blood turned to ice. A threat? We've been fighting alongside you for 20 years? But the Scifi cruisers hovering above the planet didn't seem to care about 20 years of shared battles. Their weapons were trained on every human outpost, every human ship, every human life on this world. Marcus, how many of our people are still planetside? Sarah asked. Her voice steadied despite the chaos. 12,000 combat personnel, 4,000 support staff, and about 2,000 medical personnel, he replied, checking his tablet. The Scifi caught us completely off guard. Another explosion rocked their ship. Through the comm system, they could hear human voices screaming, calling for help, asking why their allies were shooting at them. Commander Chen, this is Captain Lisa Park from the medical frigate Hippocrates. We've got wounded coming in from all sectors. The Scifi are targeting our hospital ships. Our own allies are shooting at medical vessels. Sarah's hands clenched. Into fists. In 20 years of military service, she'd never felt rage like this. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the complete violation of everything they'd fought for together. All human ships, this is Chen. Emergency jump to Rally Point Alpha. We're getting our people out of here. But as their ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, Sarah looked back at the burning planet. 12,000 humans were still down there, and the Scifi weren't taking prisoners. Marcus, send a message to Earth. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the Alliance is hunting us. Now, what are you going to do? Marcus asked. Sarah stared at the burning world where humans had died protecting alien civilians, where human medics had been murdered while treating alien wounded, where 20 years of trust had been incinerated in a single morning. I'm going to make sure this never happens again, she said quietly. And I'm going to make sure everyone who participated in this betrayal pays the price. The jump to hyperspace engaged, and Kepler-442b disappeared behind them. But Sarah Chen would never forget the sight of human medical stations burning, while alien warships circled overhead like vultures. The war for humanity's survival had just begun. Chapter 2. The Underground. 6 months after the betrayal, Sarah Chen stood in the cargo bay of a stolen Scifi freighter, addressing a crowd of survivors that had grown beyond her wildest expectations. What started as a few hundred refugees had become something much larger and much more dangerous. We now have confirmed reports from 18 different star systems, she announced, her voice carrying across the packed bay. The pattern is always the same: invite human forces to joint operations, then eliminate them when they're isolated and vulnerable. A hand shot up from the crowd. Commander, what about the Vorthan? They helped some of our people escape from the Tau City system. Sarah nodded. The Vorthan are the exception. They've been harboring human refugees and sharing intelligence with us. But they're also being hunted now. The Alliance has labeled them human sympathizers. Dr. Elizabeth Hayes, the chief medical officer from the destroyed Hippocrates, stepped forward. Sarah, we need to talk about the bigger picture. I've been analyzing the attack patterns, and there's something you need to know. Sarah gestured for the crowd to disperse to their duties, then followed Elizabeth to a secure compartment. Inside, holographic displays showed star charts, casualty reports, and tactical analyses. Look at this, Elizabeth said, pointing to a three-dimensional map. The simultaneous attacks across 18 systems, the coordinated timing, the identical tactical approaches. This wasn't a sudden decision by the Alliance. This was planned. For months, maybe years, Sarah studied the data. You're saying they've been planning to eliminate us from the beginning. I'm saying someone convinced them that humans were a threat. That needed to be removed. But here's what's really interesting. Look at the systems they targeted. The hologram highlighted specific star systems in red. These aren't random human outposts. These are all systems with significant strategic value, rare mineral deposits, strategic hyperspace routes, manufacturing capabilities. They wanted our territory. Sarah realized they wanted our territory, and they needed us gone to take it. The question is, who orchestrated this? Before Sarah could answer, Lieutenant Rodriguez burst into the compartment. Commander, we've got a problem. Long-range sensors are picking up a massive fleet heading for Earth. Sarah felt her heart stop. How massive? Over 2,000 ships from 12 different alliance species. They're not sending a diplomatic mission. Sarah, they're sending an invasion force. The implications hit her like a physical blow. Earth with its 8 billion human souls. Its orbital defense platforms designed to work with alliance technology. Its government that still believed in diplomatic solutions. How long until they reach Earth? She asked. 72 hours, Marcus replied. Elizabeth looked. Between them, Sarah, even if we could warn them, Earth's defenses are integrated with Alliance technology. The moment the shooting starts, the Alliance can shut down our own defense systems. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, staring at the tactical display. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, harder, colder. Then we don't warn them. We do something else entirely. What do you mean? Marcus asked. I mean we stop being refugees and start being what we were always meant to be. What they were always afraid we'd become. She turned to face both of them. Marcus, I need you to send a message to every human survivor group, every underground cell, every refugee convoy. Tell them to converge on coordinates I'm about to give you. Sarah, what are you planning? Elizabeth asked. I'm planning to give the Alliance exactly what they said they wanted, a war with humanity. But this time, we're going to fight it on our terms. She pulled up a star chart and pointed to a system in the outer rim. We're going to take Vega Prime. Marcus stared at her. The Zalathi's primary military production facility? Sarah, that's suicide. No, Marcus. That's where we stop running and start taking back what's ours. One planet at a time. The die was cast. Humanity was no longer fleeing, they were hunting. Chapter 3. The first strike. Vega System's outer asteroid field looked empty to most scanners. But Sarah Chen knew better. Hidden among the floating rocks were 47 human ships. Each one captured, stolen, or built in secret over the past 6 months. Status report, she whispered into her comm. Standing on the bridge of the flagship Retribution, a former Alliance cruiser that had been liberated during the evacuation of Kepler 44b. Ghost Squadron is in position around the primary shipyard. Came the reply from Captain David Kim. Phantom Wing has the orbital defense platforms locked. Thunder Group is ready to hit the planetary command center. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing Vega Prime, a blue-green world that served as the Zalathi's primary military production facility every day. This planet produced enough warships to patrol 3 star systems. Those ships had been used to hunt down human survivors. Not anymore. Dr. Hayes, what's the status on our secret weapon? Sarah asked. Elizabeth's voice came through the comm with barely contained excitement. The virus is ready. Once we upload it to their network, every Alliance ship in the system will find their weapon systems experiencing what I like to call catastrophic malfunctions, and our Vorthan allies, Ambassador Kev's ships, are standing by. They've been waiting 6 months for a chance to strike back at the Alliance. Today's their chance. Sarah took a deep breath. This was at the moment. Humanity stopped being victims and started being predators. All units, this is Chen. Operation Payback is a go. The attack began with precision that would have made the old Alliance Admiralty proud. Ghost Squadron emerged from the asteroid field. Like deadly phantoms, their modified weapons systems cutting through the outer sensor grid before the Zalathi even knew they were under attack. Phantom Wing, you're clear for approach, Sarah announced. Take out those orbital platforms before they can warn the planet. Copy that, Commander. Phantom Wing engaging. Sarah watched as the orbital defense platform's massive structures that had protected Vega Prime for over a century erupted in brilliant explosions. The humans had studied Alliance technology for 20 years, working alongside alien engineers, learning their weaknesses. Now they were using that knowledge to tear the Alliance apart. Thunder Group, you're clear for planetary assault. Hit the command center, but remember we want the manufacturing facilities intact. Roger that. Thunder Group beginning descent. On the planet's surface, Zalathi military commanders were just beginning to realize they were under attack when the first human drop pods slammed into their primary command complex. These weren't the scared refugees who had fled Kepler 440 to be 6 months ago. These were hardened soldiers with 6 months of anger fueling their every move. Commander, we're getting reports from the planet, came Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice. The Zalathi are trying to send a distress signal. Jam it, Sarah ordered. I don't want word of this getting out until we're ready. Already done. And Sarah hour. People are reporting that the Zalathi had human prisoners in the command center. They were using them for forced labor. Sarah's jaw tightened. Get our people out of there. And make sure the Zalathi understand that we know what they've been doing. 20 minutes later, Vega Prime's command center was in human hands. The orbital platforms were destroyed. The shipyards were captured. And for the first time since the betrayal, humans were standing on conquered alien soil. Dr. Hayes, upload the virus to their communication network. I want every Alliance ship in the sector to get the message. Uploading now. And done, Sarah. Their entire fleet communication system is about to receive a very special message. Across the Vega system, on dozens of Alliance ships, computer screens flickered and displayed the same message. This is Commander Sarah Chen. Of the human resistance, you betrayed us. You murdered our people. You hunted our families. But we are not the prey you thought we were. We are the predators you created. This is your first lesson in what humans can do when you push us too far. Vega Prime is ours now. Your weapons are offline. Your shields are down. Surrender or be destroyed. And message. The response was immediate. 3 Zalathi battleships tried to engage the human fleet, only to discover that their weapons wouldn't fire and their shields wouldn't activate. Within minutes, all 3 were floating hulks. Sarah, Marcus called out, "We're getting surrender." Signals from the remaining Alliance ships in the system. Good. Have them transfer all their data archives to us. Then escort them to the edge of the system. Let them go. I want them to spread the word about what happened here. Elizabeth appeared on the bridge, grinning. Sarah, you need to see this. The planetary manufacturing facilities are producing warships at a rate of 12 per day. With these resources, we could build a fleet that would make the old Alliance think twice about hunting humans. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing Vega Prime, now marked with human control symbols. 1 planet down, hundreds more to go. Signal our allies, she ordered. Tell them Phase 1 is complete. It's time to move to Phase 2. What's Phase 2? Marcus asked. Sarah's smile was cold as space. Phase 2 is where we stop taking 1 planet at a time and start taking entire star systems. The Alliance wanted a war with humanity. They're about to get one. Chapter 4. The Reckoning 3 months after the fall of Vega Prime. The Galactic Alliance High Council convened an emergency session on their capital world of Zentara. The conference room, built to accommodate representatives from 12 different species, had never seen such tension. High Chancellor Vector, a towering Zalathi with scales that had dulled with age and stress, stood before the assembled delegates. Fellow council members, we face an unprecedented crisis. The humans have captured 47 Alliance worlds in the past 90 days. Murmurs of distress filled the chamber. Councillor Tice, representing the insectoid Kriegan, clicked her mandibles anxiously. How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated that human forces were scattered and demoralized. Our intelligence was wrong. Vector replied grimly. The humans have not only unified their scattered forces, but have also recruited allies from species we thought were loyal to the Alliance. The Forthan have openly joined them, and we have reports of Altarian and Proximan ships flying alongside human vessels. On the massive holographic display, Red markers showed the extent of human advancement. What had started as isolated raids had become a coordinated campaign that was steadily eating away at Alliance territory. They're not just taking planets. Admiral Zorth, the military commander, reported, "They're taking our technology, our resources, our manufacturing capabilities. Every world they capture makes them stronger." Meanwhile, 300 light-years away, Sarah Chen stood in the command center of New Terra Station, a massive orbital facility that had once been the Alliance's primary research station. In the Proxima system, now it served as the headquarters for the growing human resistance. "Status report," she said, studying the three-dimensional tactical display that showed the current state of the war. "We've just received confirmation that the Altarians have formally joined our alliance," reported Captain Kim. "That brings our total fleet strength to over 1,500 combat vessels." Dr. Hayes, now serving as the Resistance's chief intelligence officer, added, "The virus we uploaded to their networks has spread far beyond what we anticipated. Alliance ships across 23 systems are reporting system failures. They're having to replace their entire communication infrastructure." Sarah nodded, but her expression remained serious. "What about Earth?" The question hung in the air like a weapon. Earth, the birthplace of humanity, the world that 8 billion humans still called home, remained under Alliance occupation. The invasion fleet that had arrived 6 months ago now maintained a blockade around the planet, preventing any communication in or out. "We still don't know the full situation," Marcus reported quietly, "but our reconnaissance drones have detected massive energy signatures in Earth's orbit. The Alliance is building something big." Before Sarah could respond, the comm system activated. "Commander Chen, this is Captain Park of the Destroyer Vengeance. We've got an incoming transmission from the Alliance High Council. They're requesting a meeting." Sarah exchanged glances with her senior staff. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered, and suddenly High Chancellor Vector appeared. Before them, the aging Zalathi looked haggard, his scales dulled by stress. "Commander Chen," he began, his voice carrying the weight of desperation. "I am High Chancellor Vector of the Galactic Alliance. I wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict." Sarah kept her expression neutral. "High Chancellor, I'm surprised to hear from you. Last I heard, the Alliance considered humans to be threats to galactic peace that needed to be eliminated." Vector's eyes large, dark orbs that revealed more emotion than his voice showed something that might have been regret. "The decision to act against human forces was made based on intelligence that has since proven to be inaccurate." "Inaccurate," Sarah repeated slowly. "Is that what you call the massacre of 12,000 humans on Kepler-4 to be? The murder of medical personnel treating wounded soldiers? The betrayal of 20 years of alliance?" The Chancellor's silence stretched for several seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "We believe we were preventing a greater catastrophe. We were told that humanity was planning to dominate the galaxy, that your species' aggressive nature would eventually lead to the subjugation of all other intelligent life." "Told by whom?" Sarah demanded. Another pause. "That information is classified." Sarah stood up, her voice growing harder. "Then here are my terms, High Chancellor. Complete withdrawal of Alliance forces from Earth. Reparations for every human life lost due to your betrayal, and the identity of whoever convinced you that genocide was the solution to your fears." "Commander, surely we can reach a more reasonable—" "Those are my terms," Sarah interrupted. "You have 72 hours to respond. If Alliance forces are not withdrawn from Earth by then, we will come and remove them ourselves." She cut the transmission, leaving the command center in silence. "Sarah," Dr. Hayes said quietly, "they'll never agree to those terms." "I know," Sarah replied. "I'm counting on it." She turned to face her staff. "Signal the fleet. All ships are to converge on Rally Point Omega. It's time to go home." Marcus looked at the tactical display. "Sarah, Earth's defenses are still integrated with Alliance technology. If we attack, they could turn the planet's own weapons against the population." Sarah's smile was cold as the void of space. "Marcus, who do you think designed those defense systems?" Realization dawned on his face. "The human engineers who worked on the orbital platforms are now working for us, Sarah. Finished. The Alliance is about to learn their final lesson about underestimating humanity. We didn't just build their weapons, we built their weaknesses too. The war for Earth was about to begin. Chapter 5. Coming home. Sol system had never seen a fleet like the one that emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Orc cloud. 500 human ships, accompanied by 200 Vorthan vessels, and 100 ships from the newly allied Altarian Republic, dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. At the center of the fleet, aboard the flagship Retribution, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge and stared at the blue-green marble that had been humanity's home. For 200,000 years, Earth hung in the void like a jewel, but it was surrounded by the dark shapes of Alliance occupation forces, reported the tactical officer. We're detecting over 800 Alliance ships in Earth orbit. They've got the planet completely blockaded. Sarah nodded grimly. What about the orbital defense platforms, still active? Still under Alliance control. They're aimed at the planet's surface. The implications were clear. The Alliance was holding Earth's population hostage, using the planet's own defenses as a weapon against its people. Commander, came a voice from the comm system. This is Admiral Zorth of the Alliance fleet. You are ordered to withdraw from Sol system immediately or face the consequences. Sarah took a deep breath. Dr. Hayes, is the override ready? Ready and waiting, Elizabeth replied from the engineering station. 20 years of human engineers building backdoors into Alliance technology. The moment we activate it, every Alliance ship in the system will lose weapons, shields, and propulsion, and the orbital platforms will recognize their true masters and target only Alliance vessels. Sarah opened the comm channel. Admiral Zorth, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Resistance. I'm giving you one opportunity to surrender. Withdraw your forces from Earth immediately or face the consequences. The reply came back immediately. Commander Chen, you are outnumbered 4-1. Your resistance ends here. Sarah looked around the bridge at her crew, humans who had survived betrayal, who had fought their way across the galaxy, who had transformed from refugees into warriors. Dr. Hayes, execute the override. Override executing. Now, across the Sol system. Every Alliance ship suddenly found itself helpless. Weapons systems shut down, shields collapsed, propulsion systems went offline. In the space of 30 seconds, the most powerful fleet in Alliance history became 800 floating targets. At the same time, Earth's orbital defense platforms, massive structures that had protected the planet for decades, swiveled to target the Alliance vessels that had been using them to threaten Earth's population. This is Commander Chen to all Alliance vessels, Sarah announced over the system-wide comm. Your weapons are offline, your shields are down, your ships are dead in space. You have exactly 10 minutes to abandon your vessels and retreat to the edge of the system in your escape pods, or Earth's own defenses will destroy you. The response was immediate. Hundreds of escape pods began launching from Alliance ships as their crews realized they had no choice but to abandon their vessels. But Admiral Zorth wasn't finished. Commander Chen, even if you take the Sol system, you cannot stand against the full might of the Alliance. We have 10,000 ships across the galaxy. Sarah's reply was broadcast not just to the Sol system, but to every Alliance world. Every Alliance ship, every Alliance station across the galaxy. Admiral, let me tell you what humans have learned. In the past year, we've learned that the species we trusted, the allies we fought beside, the friends we died for, they were willing to commit genocide based on lies. We've learned that the galaxy is not the peaceful place we thought it was. We've learned that mercy is seen as weakness, and trust is a luxury we can no longer afford. She paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy. But most importantly, we've learned that when you push humans too far, when you threaten our families, our homes, our very existence, we don't just fight back, we win. The comm system crackled with transmissions from across the galaxy. On dozens of Alliance worlds, human resistance cells were emerging from hiding. On hundreds of Alliance ships, human crew members were taking control of their vessels. The virus that had been slowly spreading through Alliance networks for months Was activating sleeper programs that turned their own technology against them? You wanted to eliminate humanity because you thought we were a threat. Sarah continued. You were right. We are a threat, but not to the innocent, not to the peaceful, not to those who honor their treaties and protect their allies. We are a threat to those who believe that might makes right, who think that genocide isn't acceptable. Solution to their fears. As she spoke, Alliance ships across the galaxy were reporting system failures, communication breakdowns, and in some cases, complete loss of control to human crews who had been secretly working to undermine Alliance. Operations, the Alliance, is finished, Sarah announced. Any species that wishes to join the new Galactic Federation, one based on equality, mutual respect, and the protection of all sentient life will be welcome. Any species that wishes to continue the Alliance's policies of oppression and genocide will find themselves at war with not just humanity, but with every species that values freedom on Earth. 8 billion humans looked up at the sky and saw their orbital defenses turning away from their planet for the first time in 6 months. They saw Alliance ships retreating to the edge of their solar system. They saw the ships of the human resistance taking position around their world. They saw their children coming home, ma'am, reported the tactical officer. We're receiving surrender signals from Alliance forces across 17 systems. The Kregan are requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. The Thymalians are asking to join the new Federation. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained serious, and the Zalathi no response yet. She looked at the tactical display, where red markers showed the few remaining Alliance strongholds. Then we keep fighting until they understand that this war ends only when justice is served. The liberation of Earth was complete, but the war for the galaxy's future was just beginning. Chapter 6. The New Order 6 months after the liberation of Earth. The former Alliance Senate building on Zentara had been transformed into the headquarters of the Galactic Federation. The circular chamber, once dominated by the towering seats of the Alliance High Council, now contained smaller, equal-sized platforms for representatives from 47 different species. Sarah Chen, now bearing the title of Federation High Admiral, stood at the center of the chamber addressing the assembled delegates. Her uniform was no longer the patched and battle-worn outfit of a resistance fighter, but the crisp dress uniform of the newly formed Federation Navy. Fellow representatives, she began, her voice carrying easily across the chamber. We gather today to address the final outstanding issue from the Alliance war, the matter of the Zalathi holdouts. The chamber stirred uneasily. Of all the Alliance species, only the Zalathi had refused to surrender, instead retreating to a cluster of heavily fortified worlds in the Outer Rim. For months, they had conducted raids against Federation shipping, still claiming that humanity represented an existential threat to galactic civilization. Counselor Tice, now representing the Kregan in the Federation, spoke first. High Admiral, my people have lost 17 cargo vessels to Zalathi raiders in the past month. When will this end? Ambassador Keth, the Vorthan representative who had been humanity's first alien ally, added. The Zalathi have rejected all diplomatic overtures. They seem determined to fight to the last ship. Sarah nodded grimly. Which brings us to today's decision. The Federation Navy has located the Zalathi's primary stronghold, a heavily fortified system called Terminus. Our intelligence suggests that High Chancellor Vector and the remaining Alliance leadership are coordinating the resistance from there. She activated a holographic display showing the Terminus system. The system contains 3 inhabited worlds and over 100 defensive installations. Our analysts estimate that taking it would require a full-scale assault that could cost thousands of Federation lives. Then what do you propose? Asked Representative Dorlan of the Altarian Republic. Sarah was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I propose we give the Zalathi one final chance to surrender, but this time, we show them exactly what they're facing. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew that Sarah Chen was not known for empty gestures. High Admiral, Tice said cautiously, what do you have in mind? Sarah smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. I'm going to Terminus, personally, with a small escort fleet. I'm going to show High Chancellor Vector something that will make him understand why continuing this war is suicide. 3 days later, Sarah stood on the bridge of the Retribution as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Terminus system. With her were 12 other ships, a tiny force compared to the massive defenses that protected the Zalathi stronghold. "Ma'am," reported the tactical officer, "we're being hailed by the Terminus Defense Command. They're ordering us to leave immediately or be destroyed. Open a channel," Sarah ordered. The holographic display activated, showing the familiar form of High Chancellor Vector. The aging Zalathi looked even more haggard than before. His scale is now completely gray with stress. "Commander Chen," he said, his voice filled with weary resignation, "you have come a long way to die." "I've come a long way to give you one last chance to live," Sarah replied. "Chancellor, this war has gone on long enough. Your people are dying for nothing. The Alliance is dead. The galaxy has moved on. The galaxy has moved on to human domination." Vector spat. "Just as we predicted." Sarah shook her head. "Chancellor, look around you. The Federation Senate has representatives from 47 species. Humans hold exactly one seat, the same as everyone else. The Federation Navy is commanded by officers from 12 different species. The Federation Constitution guarantees equal rights for all sentient beings." "Pretty words," Vector replied, "but we know what humans are capable of. We've seen your aggression, your capacity for violence." "You've seen what humans are capable of when you try to exterminate us," Sarah corrected. "But you've never seen what we're capable of when we're trying to build something." She paused, then continued, "Chancellor, I want to show you something. Dr. Hayes, transmit the data package." The holographic display shifted to show a series of star charts, construction reports, and statistical analyses. "This is what humanity has been doing for the past 6 months. While you've been hiding in your fortress," the data painted a picture that clearly shocked Vector. "Terraform projects that would transform barren worlds into garden paradises. Medical research that promised to cure diseases that had plagued multiple species for millennia. Technology sharing programs that were raising the standard of living across the galaxy. The planet Kepler 442b, where your people murdered 12,000 humans," Sarah continued. "We've turned it into a memorial world. But not just for human victims, for all the victims of the Alliance's policies of oppression. Your people are welcome to visit and pay their respects." Vector's large eyes showed confusion. "I don't understand. We killed your people. We betrayed your trust. We tried to exterminate your species. And you failed." Sarah replied simply, "Chancellor, hatred is easy. Revenge is easy. But building something better, that's hard. That requires the one thing that humans have that you seem to lack: hope." The channel fell silent for long moments. When Vector spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. What do you want from us?" "I want you to stop fighting. I want you to come home. I want you to help us build a galaxy where no species ever again has to choose between betraying their allies and facing extinction." Sarah leaned forward. "Chancellor, I'm going to tell you something that I've never told anyone. Do you know why I survived the massacre on Kepler 442b? Because a young Zalathi medic named Sector threw himself in front of a plasma bolt meant for me. He died saving a human life, even as his own people were trying to kill us." Vector's eyes widened. "Sector, he was my grandchild." "I know," Sarah said gently. "I looked up his records. He was 23 years old. He had just graduated from medical school. He wanted to help people, all people, regardless of species." Tears began to fall from Vector's eyes, a sight that few non-Zalathi had ever witnessed. "The question is," Sarah continued, "are you going to honor his memory by continuing this pointless war? Or are you going to help us build the kind of galaxy he believed in?" The channel went silent again. Then, slowly, Vector's image disappeared. For 30 minutes, the small Federation fleet waited at the edge of the system. Then, one by one, the massive defense stations around Terminus began powering down their weapons. "Ma'am," reported the tactical officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet. It's a surrender signal." Sarah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Signal the fleet. The war is over. # Epilogue. 5 years later, the Memorial Garden on Kepler 442b was quiet in the early morning light. Sarah Chen, now retired from active duty and serving as the Federation's Secretary of Galactic Cooperation, walked slowly along the paths that wound between the monuments. Each monument represented a different species that had suffered under the Alliance's policies of oppression. The largest was dedicated to the 12,000 humans who had died in the initial betrayal. But there were others, Vorthan refugees who had been persecuted for helping humans, Altarian colonies that had been destroyed for refusing to participate in the war, even Zalathi who had been executed for questioning their government's policies. At the center of the garden stood a simple stone with a single inscription, "Never again." Sarah? She turned to see Dr. Elizabeth Hayes approaching, accompanied by a figure she hadn't seen in 2 years, High Chancellor Vector, now a representative to the Federation Senate. "Elizabeth, Chancellor." Sarah nodded to both of them. "I hope we're not interrupting." Elizabeth said, "Vector wanted to visit the memorial, and I thought you might want to be here." Sarah looked at the aging Zalathi, who had changed dramatically since the end of the war. His scales had regained some of their former luster, and his eyes held something that hadn't been there before. "Peace. I come here every year," Vector said quietly. "On the anniversary of the betrayal, I need to remember what fear and hatred can make us do." They walked together through the garden, past monuments to the dead and markers commemorating the living who had chosen to build rather than destroy. "Sarah," Vector said as they reached the central monument, "I have a confession to make." She looked at him with curiosity. "For the past 5 years, I've been trying to understand how you did it, how you turned a war of revenge into a mission of hope, how you convinced entire species to trust humans again after what we did to you." Sarah was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "It wasn't hard, Chancellor. I just remembered something that my grandfather told me when I was young." "What was that?" "He said that the true measure of a person isn't how they treat those who can help them, but how they treat those who have hurt them. The same is true for species." She gestured toward the memorial. "We could have used our victory to dominate the galaxy. We could have made the Alliance species pay for what they did to us. Instead, we chose to build something better." "But why?" Vector asked. "After everything we did, why show mercy?" Sarah looked at the monument dedicated to the young Zalathi medic who had died saving her life. "Because someone taught me that even in the darkest moments, there are individuals who choose to do the right thing. Your grandson showed me that the actions of a government don't define the character of its people." They stood in silence for a while, watching as representatives from dozens of species came to pay their respects to the victims of the war. "The Federation is thriving," Elizabeth observed. "Trade between species is at an all-time high. We've established colonies in 17 new systems. The joint research projects are producing breakthroughs that benefit everyone." "And the Zalathi?" Sarah asked. Vector straightened with something resembling pride. "My people are contributing to the terraforming project in the Vega system. We're also providing medical support to the refugee resettlement programs. It's what Sector would have wanted." Sarah nodded. "He'd be proud of you, Chancellor. It takes courage to admit when you're wrong. It takes even more courage to spend the rest of your life trying to make it right." A soft chime from Sarah's communicator interrupted the moment. She checked the message and smiled. "Speaking of making things right, I just received word that the Proximate Science Council has approved the Joint Human-Alien Research Station. We're going to be working together on faster-than-light communication technology." "Instantaneous communication across the galaxy?" Elizabeth asked excitedly. "That would revolutionize everything. It would also prevent another war like the one we just survived," Sarah added. "No more isolated systems. No more opportunity for fear and misunderstanding to turn into genocide." As they continued walking through the memorial garden, they passed a group of young beings from multiple species: humans, Vorthan, Altarian, even a few young Zalathi working together to plant new flowers around the monuments. These were the children who had grown up in the Federation, who had never known the suspicion and hatred that had once divided the galaxy. "Look at them," Vector said softly. "They don't see differences the way we did. To them, working together is natural. That's the real victory, Sarah replied. Not the battles we won, but the future we're building. Her communicator chimed again. This time, the message made her face light up with genuine joy. Elizabeth, Vector, you need to see this, she activated. The holographic display, showing a news report from the Outer Rim territories. The Andorian Republic has just announced they're joining the Federation. That makes us 53 species strong. The Andorians were Alliance hardliners, Elizabeth said in amazement. They swore they'd never work with humans. Apparently, they've changed their minds, Sarah said. According to this report, they were impressed by our response to the Centauri plague outbreak last year, when the Federation sent medical ships to help them fight the epidemic with no strings attached. It changed their perspective on what humanity really stands for. Vector shook his head in wonder. 5 years ago, I was convinced that humans would conquer the galaxy through force. Instead, you're conquering it through compassion. We're not conquering anything, Sarah corrected gently. We're building something together, something that none of us could have built alone. They reached the end of the garden path, where a new section was being constructed. The sign read, "Memorial to the future dedicated to those who chose hope over hatred." What will you do now? Vector asked Sarah. Your term as secretary ends next year. Sarah looked out over the memorial garden, then beyond it to the bustling spaceport where ships from dozens of species were loading and unloading cargo, passengers, and cultural exchanges. I think I'll go back to what I was doing before the war, helping people. Maybe I'll work with the new colonies or the research stations or the refugee resettlement programs. You could run for Federation president, Elizabeth suggested. The polls show you'd win in a landslide. Sarah shook her head. The Federation doesn't need a war hero as president. It needs someone who can help all our species learn to work together even better than we already do. Someone like Ambassador Keth or Representative Tice, or even. She looked at Vector with a meaningful expression. Me, the former High Chancellor, looked shocked. Sarah, my people would never accept. Your people have been polling at 70% approval rating. For the past year, Sarah interrupted. They've seen how you've led the reconciliation efforts. They've seen how you've worked to make amends for the war. Most importantly, they've seen how you've helped build something better. Vector was quiet for a long moment. If I did run, and if I won, would you consider serving as my Secretary of Defense? Sarah laughed. Chancellor, I've spent the last 5 years trying to get out of the military. I think I'll stick to civilian service. Then what about Secretary of Galactic Cooperation? The position you're leaving? Now that, Sarah said with a smile, is something I could consider. As they walked back toward the spaceport, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them here. 5 years ago, she had been a military commander consumed with rage and thoughts of revenge. Today, she was helping to build a galaxy where such rage would never again be necessary. The war had ended not with the destruction of humanity's enemies, but with their transformation into allies. It had ended not with the dominance of one species over others, but with the creation of a true partnership between equals. Sarah, Vector said as they reached the spaceport entrance. I have one more confession. What's that? When we first decided to eliminate humanity, we justified it by saying that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to survive. We said that your species would inevitably dominate the galaxy. Sarah waited for him to continue. We were right, he said quietly. Humans are dominating the galaxy, but not through conquest or subjugation. You're dominating through example, through showing the rest of us what we could become if we chose hope over fear. Sarah was quiet for a moment, then smiled. Chancellor, that's not human domination. That's human contribution, and it's exactly what the galaxy needs. As they boarded the transport that would take them back to the Federation capital, Sarah looked out the window at the memorial garden one last time. The afternoon sun was setting, casting long shadows across the monuments to the dead and the markers celebrating the living. Tomorrow, she would return to her duties as Secretary of Galactic Cooperation. There would be new challenges, new problems to solve, new species to welcome into the Federation. But tonight, She would rest knowing that the future they were building was worthy of the sacrifices that had made it possible. The galaxy was no longer divided between conquerors and conquered. Between the strong and the weak, it was united in a common purpose to build something better than what had come before. And in that unity, humanity had found not just survival, but its true purpose among the stars. The war was over. The real work was just beginning.